Why don't I call this meeting to order? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and councillors. We have a very unique situation here this evening. And so I'm going to open with a couple of remarks. We're going to go over a couple of rules and requests and then get into our meeting. So a couple of the very first things I'd like to say are welcome. These are unprecedented times, as you well know, which is why we're sitting the way that we are. I'm going to run through a roll call quickly for a second. In the room, in the council chamber present, quite distant from each other, are Joanne Shime, clerking from my left side. Mike DePaula is sitting in the staff bench. Chief Fisher is sitting at the staff bench in the middle. Roberta Keith is assisting us on this call, and Bev Hendry, CAO, is sitting to my right, and I'm sitting in the council chair. This will all be viewed. This meeting is being recorded. In the conference world, out there in the safety of their homes, our Councillor Bill Riley. Please say present.
Present.
Councillor Cheryl Ganahan.
Present.
Councillor Mike Rayner.
Present.
Councillor Chris Cody.
Present.
Councillor Jason Trombetta.
Present.
Okay, Councillor Harold Jonker, are you present? Harold was going to try to call, and I haven't heard him yet. When we hear a little bing, that might mean that he's coming in. So at this point, we have quorum. We're able to proceed. A couple of conference call notes that I'd like to just go through. They include some of the protocols. If you are not speaking or will not be speaking for any length of time, get used to your mute button. So look on your phones, make sure you know where your mute button is. When you are not speaking, please use your mute button often. Just remember that you're on off. It's like driving with high beams. You have to be conscious of when you want to speak, that you're just ahead, unmuting so that you can get into the conversation, okay? So use your mute buttons well. That's probably the main thing. You should also note that this meeting is being audio and video recorded. That's not significant for you guys, the video part, but I will be videoed with the team here at the town chambers, and you are all being recorded through a mic. Are there any...
Okay. Mr. Mayor, then I'd like to be recognized as being part of this meeting also.
Oh.
It's Albert.
Yep, thank you very much. Regional Councillor Albert Witteveen is also taking part in the call.
As is our treasurer, Donna DeFilippis.
Oh, right. Donna, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay, so there's our treasurer and do we have someone else? Brian. Okay, and our planning director, Brian Treble, are you present?
I am present.
Excellent. Anyone else? Our librarian, CEO of Libraries, Vanessa Holm. Are you present?
Hello, yes.
Okay,
Present.
great. Now, all the councillors, are you able to hear each other very well?
Yes, I can hear everybody.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to assume that that's across the board.
I can hear you, I can hear everybody except Mr. Mayor. You're just a little bit more distant than everyone else, and then I don't know what you can do to improve that, though.
Okay, well, I'll just try to speak just a little bit louder, and the councillor, the people in the council chamber are now putting earplugs in. Nevertheless, I think we can proceed. Councillors, it's very important that we have this meeting today, which is why we're kind of going through the extra lengths. you have the agenda given, presented to you. There are basically three items on the agenda.
Harold.
Okay. Councillor Jonker?
Has joined.
Councillor Jonker?
Yes, finally got through here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Everybody, I'm not going to go through the roll call again. Assume that everybody's on. All the councillors are on, and much of the senior staff is on. At this point, it's very important that if you're not speaking, that you have your mute on, Councillor Jonker. I'd like to call meeting number 5 held this day, Tuesday, March 24th, 2020, Township Admin Building. Item number 1 is disclosure of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest. Are there any members at this time with conflict of interest? Madam Clerk, I hear none. Then I'd like to move to bylaws. And bylaw 2A, bylaw 2020-16, pardon me, 26, bylaw 2020-26. Excuse me. To amend bylaw 2013-58, which adopts rules for procedures of council and committees thereof, electronic meetings during a declared emergency. You have that on pages 3 to 5 of your agenda. The resolution is being moved by Councillor Chris Cody. Can I get a seconder?
I'll second it, Mike Rayner.
Mike Rayner, second. Resolution is that leave be granted to introduce bylaw 2020-26 and that the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and is hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal there unto any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Ladies and gentlemen, you have that bylaw in front of you. At this time, I'm going to open up a discussion. For the purposes of this, I'm not going to do this in any kind of order. I think that at this point, if you feel that there's a break in the conversation, just unmute your mic and step into the conversation, and then I can recognize your voices, so I'll acknowledge you, and then you will have the floor. So to lead out this conversation, is there anyone who would like to go first?
I guess I could jump in there, Mr. Mayor.
All right, go ahead, Councillor Riley.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not too sure who I asked this question to, so I'm going to maybe go to the clerk. So through you to the clerk, I'm just looking for clarity and the difference between a deputy mayor as well as an acting mayor. And if I could just give a little bit of context, I'm trying to understand, from what I recall back at the end of 2018, we had to pick somebody to be our deputy mayor, which I believe is Councillor Jonker, but then we also have an acting mayor role. And in this particular bylaw here, it mentions both. So I'm just looking for clarity on what the two roles are and how they differ.
Okay, the clerk will answer.
Actually, they're both the same thing. Sorry, the bylaw just was prepared using a template from another municipality, so more than likely they use the term deputy mayor and we use the term acting mayor. So we can make amendments to the bylaw to change anywhere that it says deputy to acting, and I can make an amendment.
Is that clarified?
And so it does, and so I think that would be wise to make that a little bit of housekeeping there.
Yep.
But I do want to just confirm something. So the thing that I had thought before, that deputy mayor, like, what is it that I'm understanding there? So I believe when we first took this term of office, Harold and yourself, Mr. Mayor, I think you guys had to do some kind of, I'm going to call it black box training. And so I'm just looking to understand the difference between that role and this role. Like, I just want a little bit of clarity just so I understand, like, who's actually going where.
Okay, just for clarity, I think you're confusing two roles.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the first role, and I'm just going to identify, and you just called it kind of black box training. I think that Yeah, so
Yeah.
let me explain. I think you may be referring to an EOC term, which has the mayor in the first role as the, what's the title in the EOC for the mayor? Like he's like a kind of, is he the mayor? Yeah. If for example, in a state, in an EOC procedure, there is a backup that's named at the beginning of the term. That is different than the what we're calling the acting mayor. Okay, so that's a different role. That one is defined at the beginning of the term. Councillor Jonker, correct, is that backup for the EOC. Okay? The acting mayor is on a rotation, and all 6 councillors take a turn through the course of the term. We basically have divvied up the 4-year term into 6 parts, and you all take a season, well, it's more than a season, about 3 seasons worth of acting mayor. That role generally is more of a civil role. If, for example, I can't make a particular function, I first go to that acting mayor individual who can represent this council on council's behalf in that role. And so there are 2 distinctions between those roles. For the purposes of our partial EOC, I suppose that the backup then would be Harold. Harold is the backup for the EOC, but for the purposes of, let's say I am stricken with COVID-19 and I have to isolate for 14 days, and there are functions that need to be attended to, say at the region, then I would be sending the acting mayor. So
Okay.
we are kind of, in that sense, it's a little confusing.
Councillor
Hopefully that provided
Jonker.
an explanation.
Okay, no, I appreciate that.
Has joined.
That's
Okay.
all my questions.
Okay. Anybody else with a question? Okay, I'm going to ask one more time for clarity. Are there any other people with a question or a concern with regards to this bylaw? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question at this point. I'm going to hand the floor over to the clerk, who will call out each councillor by name. So be prepared for your mute. It's in the order, the regular order that she. I don't know if you know that order, but just it's alphabetical order. So she will call out so that you'll be ready with your mute button.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I just came back in. Are we still on the first point?
Yeah, we're
On
ready
the
to
first,
call.
bylaw?
I'm glad you came
26.
back in. We are ready to call the question. People are satisfied with with the presentation as made. And clerk is going to call out your names. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, Councillor Cody?
Councillor Cody.
All right, sorry, I'm here. Support.
Councillor Ganan?
Yes.
Councillor Jonker?
Support.
Councillor Rayner?
Support.
Councillor Riley?
Yes.
Councillor Trombetta?
Councillor Trombetta.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Sorry, this phone's dying. Somebody didn't leave this phone on the charger. I tried using my house phone. I have to call back in.
Okay, well you're on now, right?
Yeah, I missed things that were said, Mr. Mayor. So I'm gonna probably lose you. The battery's dead on this phone.
Okay.
It was fully charged, but for some reason now and it keeps beeping through. So
Oh, okay. Oh, that
I'll call
was,
back in.
that was you. Okay, so are you going to call back in? Okay, I think I had, let's,
Is she there? Councillor Trombetta, are you there?
Councillor Trombetta, are you there? No, I think he's going to call back on another line.
We
You
can
know
wait,
what, we have-
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
And I'll wait. Your
Okay.
vote.
We have 6. I'm in support, so we have 6 of 7. I'm going to, you know what? For the sake of this, this is important. This is very important. Let's just wait 30 seconds. It won't take him too long. I'm actually very pleased how well this is going, just so you...
Yeah, just so you know as well, I'm in Pennsylvania on the 90, and I'm hearing you good and clear. So, yeah, it's going good. I just had to switch my carrier from T-Mobility to AT&T, and it seems to be better. So,
Wow, you have that option.
well, I love Pennsylvania.
Huge
Yeah.
roaming charges.
I'm on a company phone. I'm sure they'll see this bill.
I'm going to...
No, we have unlimited calling.
I'm going to give Jason another minute, and then I'm going to call it carried. I just, it would be nice to have his input.
You got to remember, it was only a few years ago, Caster got rotary phones, so don't expect it to be too fast.
You got off the party line, did you?
We used to have to call Mabel, and she would transfer the call out.
Yeah.
You recall laughing from the 60s.
Okay, I'm going to proceed. I'm going to call that as carried, Madam Clerk. And then just make a note that Jason Trombetta tried to be in. I just don't want his absence to be seen as a negative. But we will proceed. Councillors, we have bylaw 2B. This is bylaw 2020- Okay.
Councillor from back.
Has joined.
All right, Jason, are you back?
Yeah, sorry, that's a lot better, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, the house phone, I guess, when it looks like it's charged on the cordless, it's obviously you get on and it just died. So,
Yeah. Councillor Trombetta,
I
just to get you up to speed, we took a vote on the first bylaw. It was all the councillors have said yes. I have said yes. We're waiting for your yes or no.
Support, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, councillor. I appreciate you coming back on. You're clear as a bell, by the way.
It's a lot clearer on this end as well, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, councillor.
So the vote is unanimous.
Unanimous. All right. I have the second bylaw, 2020-27, to delegate authority to the mayor, the chief administrative office, and various municipal officers or departmental directors or any of their designates for the certain acts during a pandemic or an emergency declared pursuant to the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. This is pages 6 to 7. The resolution was moved by Councillor Cheryl Gannan that leave be granted to introduce bylaw 2020-27, that the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and is hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Can I get a seconder, please? Anyone?
Councillor Jonker will.
Thank you, Councillor Jonker. Are there any questions on this particular bylaw? Speak up.
I have one.
Go ahead, Councillor Rayner.
Yeah, thank you. It says to delegate authority to the mayor, CAO, and various municipal officers or department directors. I take this very seriously. To me, the only person that should have the delegation of authority is the top person in the township that was elected by the people of the township to represent the people of the township. To me, authority should only go to the mayor. The CAO and officers and directors, if they need something to be done, then they should go to the mayor to get his consent, because the mayor represents the people of this township. The CAO and the officers and the directors, they are employees of the township, but they're not elected by the people to represent the township. So in the interest of making sure that the best interests of the taxpayers are being looked after, the only representative to me that should make the final decision, it doesn't take away from the others if they need something, but the mayor is the one that should be consulted because he represents the people. That's my feeling on it anyways.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just, in contradiction to Councillor Rayner, and nothing personal against you, Mr. Mayor, but I'm sure Councillor Rayner could see the concerns people would have with giving all the power to one single individual.
None taken, Councillor. Any further, Councillor Cody?
Nope, that's it. I just,
Okay.
I think it's best to spread it out amongst our
Okay, so I'm
people
back
who run
on.
the ship.
Councillor Gannan?
Sorry, Councillor Cody, I thought you were finished. I just
No,
think that this is a fair representation. You have the mayor representing the people and the chief administrative officer representing essentially staff. And then we have the various people from various directors of departments, so that if anything is important to their department, they also have input into the decision making. So I think that this is fair the way it stands.
Anyone else? Councillor Jonker, Councillor Riley, Councillor Trombetta?
I'll jump in.
I agree.
Okay.
Councillor Justin,
I
first.
agree with it. Sorry.
Okay, Councillor Riley?
Sorry, I did.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't really have any, I guess, real concern with the three people, but I want to seek a little bit of added clarity. And it's more in relating to, I'm just trying to find out my notes here, but I know there was a section that had talked about passing previous committee meeting, council meeting items that weren't ratified, that they could actually make ratified. So my concern isn't so much related to a decision needed to be made in an emergency situation, but passing business that hasn't seen council that may require ratification from stuff in the past, because that is our second chance there to make sure that we've done a little extra homework and be able to look at everything. So I think it's section 3 that of the bylaw 2020-27 here that talks about department head recommendations to approval. Oh yeah, so that that had not been attained by council ratification. So in a situation, if we pass this here, and I guess through you to, I'm going to assume it's the clerk, if we pass this here, does that mean meetings that had taken place before were also indirectly approving those meetings without having to have a chance to talk about all items that were a part of that process?
So I will pass it over. You should note, councillors, all of you, that it was part of a vigorous discussion on our end what that actually entailed. Because this bylaw is something that has been passed around the region for such a time as this, we're actually one of the last municipalities to endorse this. Municipalities, I think there's been 3 or 4 of this on Monday and Tuesday, or Monday and late last week. I'm going to go to the clerk, and then I'm going to invite Madam CAO to give some clarity to that section. Because you're right, Councillor. It is one of the ones that raised concerns for us how that would be understood. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, what we planned on doing, and we postponed the meeting that was to be held on last night. We postponed it to April 6th. Because we have the opportunity now to have electronic meetings, we expect to be having that council meeting on April 6th. At that point, we are going to bring back the minutes, like a normal council meeting. So the one meeting that's outstanding at the moment is our March, I think, 9th planning committee meeting. So those minutes will be put back on the table like they normally are. This was just kind of, if there was time-sensitive issues that we couldn't wait for, then we would proceed. But I don't think there's anything in that regard right now, that we have any time-sensitive issues. So it's just kind of there just in case we do down the road have time-sensitive issues and we can't deal with them as quickly as maybe we can put a meeting together. So the April 6th meeting will be like a regular council meeting. However, we are going to put the items that were on the admin meeting and the Public Works meeting of March 16th on that agenda as well. And hopefully, yeah, we can get everything satisfied and we can proceed as normal.
Okay, I appreciate that explanation. I just want to make sure, if we pass this, if it's successful, it isn't also sweeping other things under the rug at the same time. Like, I don't think it'd be intentional by any means, and that's not what I'm implying. I just don't want to see some stuff get lost. So that's reassuring to hear. The one other question I have, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not too sure who to actually steer this towards, but in relation to Section 5 that talks about standing committee meetings, right now we're in the process of, I guess it'll be addressed in April, but we're trying to figure out the Santa Claus parade, or the Christmas parade, I should say. And so that was just something that kind of stuck out to me. I realized we need to start booking things like a marching band. I know the whole world's kind of come to a halt here, so I wanted to make sure that that was something that wasn't going to be impacted anything further by passing this as well. We don't want any more roadblocks. We're hopeful that the Christmas parade's going to happen, and I don't want to lose sight of that. So I want to make sure this wasn't going to necessarily indirectly impact it by any means. And if there's any way that we could ensure that that gets going sooner than later, I think that would put a lot of minds to ease.
Okay, Councillor, I'm going to go pass the floor over to Madam CAO for the answer.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Bylsma, to Councillor Riley. This is a great example to perhaps even explain how number 3 might work. So, for example, we did have a staff report on the March 16th agenda that dealt with the new committee for the Santa Claus parade. However, that was not considered by the committee, and therefore we would actually have to take that to the April 6th meeting, and that'll be included in that as one of the catch-up items. However, had that item been approved potentially at a March 16th meeting, then the number 3 might have given us the approval just to carry on. So it's okay, just a good example to show how that might work. With number 3 being in there, we looked at it and we were trying to consider all sorts of different variations and ways that it could be used, and certainly staff have no desire to take on council's role. So I want to be really clear about that. That's nothing that we want to do. So it was there to deal with something, and it could be something quite minimal, like and I haven't been able to find a small example, and I'll continue to try to look for one out of our past meetings. But going back to the other item of time-sensitive matters, so what we're going to be sort of looking at items, and we understand that the Santa Claus parade is time-sensitive in that regard, and it is already put together, and that'll be put forward on the April 6th agenda. So I think we're good, and so it was a great example to raise because it sort of shows how number 3 could work or not work. And yet how it would still get captured through the new number 5, and how that would be collected in that next agenda.
Okay. Well, if I could just add on real quickly there, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Madam CEO. Is there, and maybe I missed it somewhere, but I just want to make sure I understand, in that April meeting, is there a way that we can introduce a little piece of bylaw to instantly ratify that? Because I imagine we're going to need to come out of that meeting specifically talking about the parade here. With hitting the ground running as far as the committee forming and getting going. So I want to make sure that we don't have any additional delays that are preventative, at least on our end.
Yeah. So, Councillor, just so you know, and the Madam Clerk is telling me that it is in fact a council meeting. So the April 6th will include that count. We will pass bylaws and stuff. So everything will be ratified. This is often just as a matter of routine in our past practices. Sometimes we quote unquote ratify prior to council, right? Ratify prior to council. This is kind of that little clause that we can do if something is time sensitive. We don't foresee of anything, and the Director of Planning, Brian Treble, is on, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but we could not figure out anything that we can see today that will require the initiation of that particular clause. But that doesn't mean that it can't proceed. We don't know how long we'll be doing meetings by this procedure. And it was something that was imported from the standardized document that has been going and circulated amongst the municipalities as they make these declarations right across the region, and actually, in fact, right across the province. So this has been vetted through various legal, and so legal has no problem. They've given us our blessing on it as well, and like I said, with the exception of the that's why there's little tweaks and such like that. But just for everybody's comfort. Are there any other comments sorry, Councillor Riley, are you complete?
I am, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead. Councillor Trombetta?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The only I got just a couple of little things here. It's just some of the language. I'm not saying that this delegation is not correct. It's the language in it that's a little confusing. And I understand. By the way, I just got home late and I went through this agenda really, really quickly as it came a couple times. So I'm trying to piece it all together as we speak here. Please bear with me. Mr. Mayor, like in number 2, it says, the CAO and the treasurers are jointly delegated as financial signing authorities for purchases over 100,000 and have publicly tendered in accordance. I think you need to be involved in that as well, Mr. Mayor. You're just giving the authority to the CAO, and not that they're doing anything wrong, that they will. But I think your name needs to be put in there as well, Mr. Mayor. Again, if there is a signing authority that's in essence over the $100,000 mark, that's totally understandable during a pandemic, and there's things that need to be done, and I get it. But we also have to represent the public, and then they're going to question us, and we're going to say, well, we really don't know anything about it. I think your name needs to be in that language, Mr. Mayor. That's just my comment to that one. If anybody else if you want to answer up on that, Mr. Mayor?
I'm going to, the Director of Finance is on the phone. Director DeFilippis, can you respond to that?
Through you, Mayor Bylsma, to Councillor Trombetta. So when we read the current purchasing bylaw, purchases of that magnitude are approved by council.
Correct.
What we're suggesting is to expedite it, that the CAO and treasurer could approve these with a report brought to council on a regular basis, letting them know what's been approved. So it's to expedite projects so that they can be completed.
But it doesn't. Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Director of Finance. I understand that, but it doesn't say that in this, Don. It just says to award the tender or request proposal without the approval of council resolution.
Yes, because in some instances we can't wait for council resolution. So we would approve it and then we would report back to council on what was done. So we would still provide, clarity as to what decisions were being made, and we would still be following the purchasing policy. Our concern is, as an example, in March we had some tenders that were to go to council, and unfortunately those meetings were canceled. So it's just to expedite items of that.
Correct, and I get it. I just think that the mayor should be. I don't see why if the mayor is a delegate, I don't understand why he's not involved in that as well in the language. Why is the mayor not in that as well? Why is it just the CAO and the treasurer? The mayor should be a delegate in that as well, and I'd like to see the language in that number 2.
Yeah, Councillor Jonker here. If I could just add to you, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Jason there.
If I could just add as well, I also support that. I think we should be able to make a friendly amendment here, and I think it just give council as well as the residents of our community just a little extra peace of mind, knowing that it's, not that, we have fantastic staff, but I think just knowing that we have an elected official on there who's going to be a part of that decision making. And Mr. Mayor, you yourself, you're going to be able to take the information they have and be able to, take great confidence in supporting or not supporting whatever direction
and that would,
you guys should follow.
Okay, so I have 3 people who are in favor of it, so I will throw that up there as an amendment. It will, so number 2 will include the CAO, the treasurer, and the mayor will be in there. Doesn't matter the order, I don't think. So I'm going to say that the mover was Councillor Trombetta, and the seconder was Councillor Jonker. Is that okay? Is that fair?
That works for me.
Sure, that's fair. That works for me.
Okay. Any other comments on that amendment? I'd like to just open that up for discussion. Any comments on that amendment?
Well, it's part of what I said in the beginning, that the mayor should be part of this. I know Councillor Cody doesn't think so, but that's fine. Everybody's got the right to their own opinion. But this is the township. You are the elected official. And if they've got to make decisions, be it the CAO or directors, you should be part of it.
Okay.
And that's exactly what Councillor Trombetta and Councillor Jonker just brought forward, and that was my point when I started. So thank you.
I'm getting nods from the staff, so there's no concern on this end. So just to kind of make that point there, we're getting nods.
Okay.
That's fine.
So now I'm speaking. Yeah, I'm coming in as well.
Which item are we talking about? Mine states the mayor.
Oh, no. Chris, look at number 2 on the actual act, on the bylaw. That's what they're talking about. So I'm just going to say, to have that piece added is not a big deal if it means that the rest of this gets moved through the way it should. So.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ganad. Councillor Cody, I'm going to acknowledge Councillor Cody. Did you want to make a comment here, sir?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm reading the agenda here, and I'm reading, I assume we're talking about item 2B.
Yes.
My agenda states to delegate authority to the mayor, the chief administrative officer, and various municipal. And in the resolution, it also says that the mayor and clerk. Like mine states the mayor.
Yeah, but if you go to sorry to interrupt, Mr. Mayor, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Cody. But if you actually go to the bylaws,
page 6.
Page 6, number 2. There's a section in there, section 4.4, that states that the purchasing and the tender policy is only designated through the CAO and treasurer. Once the bylaws pass, Councillor Cody, that just gives authority. So if something happens, the mayor should be in there, because there should be a council representative in there, a member of council representative in there, because that's giving designation to the CAO and treasurer only, the amount of money that is supposed to be expended by taxpayers' money, right? So maybe you're not seeing it there, Councillor Cody, through you, Mr. Mayor.
I must be. Sorry. There's page numbers at the top and the bottom of the pages. I apologize.
So this will be bylaw number 2020-27, item. People are saying 3.
Yeah. Okay.
No, 2.
CAO department head. 2.
Yeah. The notwithstanding. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to call the question on the amendment. Go ahead.
The amendment, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, on the amendment. The clerk will take up the vote. Go ahead, Madam Clerk. I'm just waiting for the resolution. Okay. The clerk will read out the amendment. Just shortly. It's just council printer works. Just bear with us just a second.
You have enough ink?
Yeah, there's the trouble.
Do we have ink?
That was my question.
Yeah, the ink is fine. It's just another, okay, we have it. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So the amendment is that bylaw 2020-27, specifically section 2, be amended to add the word mayor following the word CAO.
All right, we're clear on that. Madam Clerk, take up the vote, please.
Councillor Cody,
Support.
Councillor Ganan,
Yes?
Councillor Jonker,
Support.
Councillor Rayner,
Support.
Councillor Riley,
Yes.
Councillor Trombetta,
Support.
Mayor Balsma,
Support.
7-0, unanimous.
Thank you very much. Moving on, we have other business.
Oh,
We need to
Yeah,
address that, yeah.
So we actually have the
The
bylaws.
original.
Oh, sorry, yep.
You got to do the original as amended, do you not?
Yes, my apologies, everyone. So now we're going to put it all back on the table. So the original motion, are there any comments or questions that people would like to make yet?
You have to say the original motion as amended, though, if there are any
Yes,
comments.
sorry, the original motion now as amended. Are there any comments or questions that people would like to address? I'm going to ask.
No.
I'm going to ask one more time. And are there any more comments or questions that people have? Hearing none, I'm going to pass the floor over to the clerk, who will take up the call.
Councillor Cody,
Yes.
Councillor Ganan,
Yes?
Councillor Jonker,
Support.
Councillor Rayner,
Support.
Councillor Riley,
Yes.
Councillor Trombetta,
Support.
Mayor Balsma,
Support.
7-0, unanimously supported.
Thank you very much, everyone. We're going to move to other business. I'm sure that this is an opportunity to hear what staff has put together. This is a staff report. It's an information report. And it's going to be presented by Madam CAO. It's regarding the information report CAO-02-2020-COVID-19 preparation West Lincoln Business Continuity Plan. It's on pages 8 to 17. The resolution is moved by Councillor Harold Jonker that information report CAO-02-2020 dated March 24, 2020, COVID-19 preparation West Lincoln Business Continuity Plan be received for information. Can I get a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Councillor Cody, thank you. Second. I'm going to pass the mic over to Madam CAO. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor Bilsma. So it's you have before you a very comprehensive West Lincoln Business Continuity Plan. And I'm very proud of the staff and senior management team who worked together to develop this under very short notice and with sort of very unprecedented guidelines for how to work in this way. So one of the premises, and my caveat, which is actually the conclusion of the report, is that this report was prepared and mainly finalized yesterday, March 23rd. And based on the information and input from the other levels of government that we had at that point in time, and depending on what happens in the next, could be tomorrow, the business continuity plan might have to be amended. So this is capturing a time in the response to the event, but a very good comprehensive piece of information so that you, as council, know what your senior management team has been doing to keep the lights on and more, as we say. So first of all, everything that we've done in terms of sort of an assumption or baseline principle for developing the business continuity plan was based on the health and safety of our staff and our community. And so we've been trying to provide as much service as we can, yet keeping everybody safe and managing the social distancing and physical distancing that we're supposed to be doing. So it's broken down by the different areas, and if you want, I'll be happy to read it to you, but I don't think you really want me to do that, so I'm going to do some highlights. As you know, the CAO's office, in addition to leading the business continuity exercise, a lot of the work that I've been doing the last week has dealt with key responsibilities around communications, human resources, and quite not as much as I would like, but economic development. There has been information overload. We have so many pieces of information coming into the organization. So a lot of the job is just trying to keep track of that, and then get that information shared with staff, because you have staff here that have never experienced these sorts of events before, and I wanted to make sure that they felt comfortable, so created a daily information session and a Q&A forum so that they could ask questions. The other thing that I really had to focus on was making sure that the mayor was briefed, because there's just so many areas to work. We had to really follow the very unique CAO-mayor relationship that should exist, where I make sure the mayor is briefed and then he can keep the members of council up to date. It's been a fascinating process, and I'm getting to know my colleagues in the other municipalities very well. We meet at least once a day by conference call and get up to speed in terms of what other people are doing. We aren't doing everything exactly the same, but when another scenario comes up in another municipality, it helps us think about our own service and how we can be delivering the service the best way we can, and make corrections, because we aren't necessarily getting it perfect as we roll along. The CAO is also the EOC director, so I have the CAO as in my regular role, but during this COVID-19 event, we have partially activated the Emergency Operations Center, and in that role, I play the EOC director. So that takes, which sort of gets to Councillor Riley's question at the outset. We end up wearing several different hats, but yet we have to keep them straight. So the EOC in the week of March, since March 13th, in the week of March 16th, the EOC was meeting at least once a day, and now we've slowed that down a little bit, and our current plan is to meet every Monday morning and every Friday afternoon. But if there was more current information that would make us deal with more information, we would call another meeting. Each of these sections also talks about what our contingency plan is, and I've been developing a very good roster of people who can fill in for me if I were to become sick, or if I need a day of rest. So any of the members of the senior management team could step in and fill in for me should that ever be required. So when they get to the clerk's office, a lot of the effort, can you imagine you're in the middle of an emergency and the legislation changes and you learn that you can actually do a meeting by electronic means. It was a grand piece of legislation to try to read through and implement quickly, and we've done it, and I can tell right now it's working very, very well. So that's been sort of the first order of business. And now we have made the amendments to the procedural bylaw to allow us to do that. Moving forward, where some of the issues that we're going to have to deal with relate to the requirements for open meetings. So a lot of other municipalities are live streaming these sorts of meetings. We haven't developed that capacity yet, and it is a little bit costly, so it's something that we could do in the future, but we don't need to do that right now. So we're going to have to figure out ways to manage open meetings in the future so that we do have that transparency that we're supposed to have, but also maintain the social distancing and physical distancing that we're supposed to be doing. So there's some information in the report that pertains to that. The clerk's office also has a day-to-day role where they are the prime contact for the public in terms of many different sorts of services, such as issuance of licenses, commissioner of oaths, issuance of burial permits, lottery licenses, and general public inquiry engagement. So we have a process in place to make sure that all of those services are carrying on. But in a lot of cases, if we are having to meet with a resident in person, we do some screening to make sure that our staff and the person in requesting the service are protected. We've also developed some work from home processes so that we are limiting the number of staff that are actually physically in the office, and keeping that portion of the work going as well. The finance department, first of all, the major, looking at all the functions that are applied here, we're actually giving quite a bit of detail, and I hope you appreciate that the amount of thinking and contingency planning that has to be put into place. So the first issue deals with payroll, and we're covered for that, and we have a backup plan in place for that. Last week, we experienced not having our IT manager on site, and we managed okay, but we are really glad that she's back in the office right now. But we did, we learned our abilities in terms of being able to provide service and to work from Roberta through email and text even. So that was a great way to test our systems. So, and of course you know that that Roberta is our only IT staff, so we rely on her very heavily, and we listen to everything she says so that she keeps us in good order. There's a lot of information here about the collection of taxes and water billing payments, and they're actually, if you go to page 5 of the report, there's recommendations from staff with respect to some grace in terms of interest penalties and NSF charges that you are going to be dealing with in a subsequent resolution tonight. And those are really giving consideration to the fact that people's lives have changed considerably, and while we need to continue to make sure that we're collecting our taxes because that is our main revenue source, we do know that people are dealing with very different sorts of financial situations right now and uncertainty, and so we've developed some thoughts for council's approval in terms of providing some relief. As you can, there's also a paragraph about our 2019 financial statements and audit. That work still goes on, and we actually have good practices in place and good processes in place so that we will be able to probably meet that deadline that we are required to do. The report goes on to talk about fire services, and we have our fire chief and our deputy fire chief have been working hand in hand, but let me tell you, they haven't been working hand in hand because they've been maintaining social distancing, and they're doing that for the reasons of contingency planning. They've actually have been working in separate spaces. The fire chief has been working in the municipal office, and the deputy fire chief has been working in the fire service station, or the fire station. Now, developing a process where they're technically working 1 week on, 1 week off. That's really happening.
Sounds like a windstorm.
Yeah. Hey, Harold, why don't you cigarette and close your...
Someone needs to mute themselves.
Somebody needs to mute. That's what I was thinking too.
Harold, close the window. It's not me.
Okay.
Somebody doesn't have it muted.
hang on just a second. Roberta's on it.
Muted.
There we go.
Everybody's being muted. You can. It's just me who has the microphone now. So, in addition to the fire services, also our fire chief and our deputy fire chief are a community.
Yeah, I think the main. Did we mean to mute the main feed from council? Because that's the one that got muted.
That's the one that got muted.
Unmuted.
I could.
Okay, I think it's stopped now. Go ahead. Continue, just back up just a second.
Perfect.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
We lost, it all got, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, it all got muted, so I don't know, we didn't hear the last 30 seconds what
Yeah,
happened there.
we're gonna back. The CAO is gonna back up. Go ahead.
Rolling back the tape. So the what I was saying, just to recap, is that the deputy chief and the fire chief are working closely to make sure they keep distance from each other, so that we have business continuity in the fire service. But they also play the other role of being our township's CEMC, and the deputy fire chief is the alternate CEMC. So they're spending a lot of time calling into the regional EOC calls that go on daily, and then of course they bring that information back and brief the emergency operations center meetings with the information that's coming from the other municipalities. So a lot of their work right now is very naturally fits their skill set, because they are very good at roles and responsibilities in order. And I'm very thankful for that, actually. In terms of our township firefighters, we have 45, and they're all volunteer, and they're doing a very good job. They're actually, the calls have gone down, which has been a good thing, and they are also we've canceled the regular training that goes on, and I think it was actually just the regular Wednesday training is being canceled. And we're trying to keep them well. Just because our volunteer sector come from the general public, depending on what happens, we could end up losing a number of them if they were to be impacted by the COVID-19 event. And so we're just trying to make sure that we keep the volunteers that we have well and ready for action. So there's a very lengthy paragraph about, or section on planning, building, and bylaw. And so I think one of the things that we have stopped doing, there's a lot of work that's going to carry on. We have a lot of projects that are underway. We have stopped doing some of the public consultation, our pre-consultation processes. We might be looking at new ways of doing that through phone calls. But right now they have been canceled because usually that involves a group of people sitting around a table. Our building inspection services are continuing. The only thing that is stopping them is they can't go into a home, and they are very cognizant of keeping their social and physical distancing when they go out to do inspections. But this area has been defined as one of the essential services, and we want to keep our local economy moving forward. One of the big projects that we've been working on is our urban boundary expansion, and Brian has been in regular contact with our consultants working on that, and they are keeping that project front and center. It's nothing that they need to come into the office to do. They're just continuing to do some of their geophysical testing and gathering of data, so that we can make sure that project stays on track, because we really want to have that done in 2021. The Committee of Adjustment public hearings, 2 of them have been canceled. The March 25th and I don't want to say the other date. I think it was April. Actually, it was last week, I believe. So those have been canceled. We're continuing to watch that, and depending on what happens with the need to keep the facilities closed will depend on what we do with those items coming forward. The reduction in enforcement services, as you know, we do everything by complaint, but there's been a real reduction in our enforcement in terms of parking and noise bylaw issues right now. And our biggest issue that would involve any enforcement issues would be in the event of a winter storm, which let's all keep our fingers crossed we don't have, but that we would have to implement and get our bylaw officer to go out and do some of the work to make sure that the roads are cleared for that. I think I'll leave it at that. So Public Works and Recreation, there's sort of two main areas, the Operations Division and the Recreation area. So the Operations Division has developed plans to maintain municipal infrastructure at a minimum service level, and also make sure that our water distribution continues to provide safe drinking water to the public. So those are two key essential services that the municipality provides. And one of the things that we did early on in this area was we divided our work crews into two teams, and so that we're, again, making sure that we are keeping the services going, but we're protecting our staff by reducing the amount of opportunity to get too close to each other, and keeping each other well. So there's two teams, and they alternate between weeks. And if there were an event at any point in time where we had to get everybody on board, we would bring everybody in to make sure that that happened. The staffing shortages in, we have our engineering and technical department are working on more of a work from home situation and on call for times when they may be required to come in and do specific inspections, but they have a continued a work plan and business plan that they've been busily working on to make sure that our projects continue for the organization. And you're probably up to date on a lot of the activities of the Recreation Department, because one of the first decisions that were made within the organization were the closure of our facilities, and that happened as of, we made the decision on Friday, March 13th, and as of March 14th, our Westland Community Center, the Smithville Public Library, the Caisterville Public Library, the Caister Community Center, the Silverdale Community Center, the Wellandport Community Center, and Wellandport Public Library were closed to the public. We made the decision last Tuesday, the 17th, the day of the provincial declaration of emergency, that we were going to close the municipal offices until further notice. However, services to our residents are still available over the phone, and we are able to do direct some of our residents to online services as well. Parks and playground equipment. The only thing that we have done in that area is we've posted that all our playground equipment, advising people not to use it because we aren't able to actually sanitize those pieces of equipment. So from a liability perspective, we have put signs on it to say that they are not being cleaned or sanitized. The all drop-in programming, and the walking track will not be opened, and they are going to remain closed until April 5th, or if that gets extended, that will have to be extended as well. We also had to cancel some of the March break programs, and we did that on the Friday before March break, and the people that had signed up were very, very understanding of that. Other events that are canceled as of now are the April 10th Easter egg hunt. Cemetery services are still considered an essential service, and that work continues to be done as necessary. The other thing that we've done is we've really enhanced our cleaning procedures in all of our areas where staff are working, and staff have developed their own specific protocols for making sure that when they come in, they sanitize, and they're doing lots of hand washing as they should, and then keeping their workspaces very, very hygienic. In terms of the library, all of our libraries are closed to the public. The library service supervisors are alternating days and either working at Smithville, Wellandport, or Caisterville libraries, and they're also doing some work from home situations as well. One of the things that happened last week, which is an event that we have been or the library has been working on for a long time, and that was to and I couldn't forget the name of the program. The migration to green. Evergreen, thank you. So Evergreen is a new IT system, and I'm sure Vanessa's cringing as I try to explain this on her behalf. Evergreen basically puts all of our library services online, but it also means that we're linked across the entire Niagara region in terms of library services. So that all happened last Thursday, the 19th of March, in the midst of all of this, and I guess that migration went very well. And it's also providing some ability for the library staff to do virtual story times as a result of that new program being put in place. So as you can tell, things have not been quiet. A lot of work has been proceeding here. Our productivity will likely be reduced, but we are really making sure that our projects are being considered, and we're going to be meeting again this Thursday as senior staff to go over some of our business continuity again. We figured out a way to track some of our costs associated with the COVID-19 response, just so that in case there is ever a requirement to figure out if they're looking for a tally of the costs associated with a pandemic event like this, we'll have a good idea of what's involved. And then again, as I said, this is a caveat that this report was prepared yesterday and based on the information at that time. And if we have to modify it, we will do so, and we will make sure that we communicate that with council and with all staff. And that's it.
Thank you, Madam CAO. That was quite a presentation. You all have the detailed reports. Are there any comments or questions for Madam CAO or any members of the staff that are present?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'll have one after Councillor Riley, Mr. Mayor, if possible.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Riley.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess first I just want to express a great deal of gratitude for this piece of document here. As we all know, especially other councillors, this is unprecedented times or challenging times, and we kind of felt like, at least myself, felt like we were mostly in the dark. So it's definitely reassuring to be able to see some information finally, some more specific information of what's going on behind the scenes of the municipality. So I do appreciate staff and their effort to provide that. I did want to mention, and maybe for clarity, I see here under the parks and playground equipment, they're talking about as of today, there are signs posted that are actually advertising to the public not to use the playground equipment. What is the exact wording, if I could, to you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO?
She's calling.
I don't know if you guys could hear me.
Yeah, no, we're on this. We're calling it up on a.
Okay. And then I'll have one more thing to follow right after.
Yeah. Okay, so Madam CAO, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Bylsma, to Councillor Riley. We basically used the signage information that was provided by the DSBN. And basically, actually, I'm still trying to find the sign. If you can,
Okay, so I'm going to pass the floor over to Director DePaula. He'll read it out. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, through the mayor to Councillor Riley, the sign basically says, "Attention, to help prevent the spread of COVID-19, please do not use playgrounds. The playground equipment is not cleaned or sanitized." And then there's a note for more information, call the township office or visit our website.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. I definitely like that better than what was probably there previously. I did want to, bring up the whole waiving of late fees. So under this section that says assistant to residents, I noticed that we have, actually I have it in my notes here, but since I have the computer in front of me, let me just bring it up here. I appreciate the effort staff has made to, temporarily waive the interest or the penalty, of the overdue property tax. But I'd really like to see more done here if possible. I'm not necessarily asking for months. I do realize right now staff is not recommending a deferral, but when we look at what the federal government, provincial governments, and what other utility services are offering, I think we could do a little better than this personally, and I have no problem bringing forward an amendment to see that, but I certainly think we could do better. Right now we have people who are out of work, who are struggling to pay their bills, and the bills might not be so much as like heat and hydro, not having to worry about that getting turned off, but trying to put food on the table. People are in between jobs, laid off. The federal government and the provincial government haven't been getting the money out to people. I think relieving just 1 month of penalty or whatever it is, I don't think is enough. I think our community deserves a little bit more of an effort. So maybe the question can go through you, Mr. Mayor, to our Director of Finance, Donna Philippi. Is there any way we could defer this in some capacity that's going to be least impactful on the municipality so we could still operate, whether that's through some kind of reserve that we have funds for an emergency situation, just to offset the difference? I imagine there's going to be a lot of homeowners who their property tax is probably built into their mortgage. Not everyone necessarily has the convenience or luxury even to be able to pay it personally, who might own their house outright or choose to do that. But I'm just thinking of those residents who might not have the means to do it. If we can buy them a couple of months, I certainly think our municipality is efficient enough with the resources that we have to sustain that. And so I think, again, through you to make the question clear, is there any way we could look at a possible 2-month deferral setback for at least 1 or 2 of the installments?
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, is that the second part of that, the other business, or are we still on the first part?
We're still on the first part of other business. It's the CAO's report. I'm going to go to Director of Finance for an answer. Donna, are you there?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Bylsma, to Councillor Riley. So in essence, this recommendation from staff is a 2-month grace period. For the months of April and the months of May, there is absolutely no penalty or charges or fees being applied to anyone that is not able to pay their 2020 tax or water bills.
Okay.
This allows people who are able to pay to pay. The other item that council needs to note is that the township collects taxes for 2 other bodies. We collect for the upper tier and for local school boards. Those bodies have due dates that the township must meet. So this is to ensure cash flow. It also provides some relief to the residents, and it's something that we can relook at again in May to determine if this has to be continued.
Okay, so if I may, Mr. Mayor, and so I see what you have here, and I think this is maybe just where it's worded, where it's not necessarily as clear, but obviously without penalty or no penalty be applied, doesn't necessarily tell people directly that, hey, if you need the 2 months, take it. I feel like it's still, it could just be phrased a little bit more clear so that people understand that they don't have to worry. But I don't think people are going to go and seek this out. It would be nice to have something that was a little bit more fair. But at the same time, the Director of Finance's comments related to, I guess, the region and the school board, DSPN or whatever the school boards are, are we aware if they're offering anything in relation? Like, have they acknowledged anything as well? Have we reached out to them to see if they're going to give us a little bit of grace on when we have to pay that portion to them, or are they just sticking it to us?
Councillor Riley, I'm going to just pause your line of questioning because
Okay.
our next item will deal more specifically with that. The question.
And that's what I asked. That's what I was asking, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I know you were. I know you
Mr.
were.
Mayor, though.
So
my confusion is when the CEO was explaining this, that was all part of the same explanation.
I know. So
all of that, part of that.
You're not out of order. I'm just going to say that the questions in the detail are something that's going to be a little bit more maybe explained when the director makes her presentation on the next item in the agenda, and might answer some of your questions without kind of breaking the protocol. So if you have other questions with respect to the CAO's report, other items, the planning, the public works, it's appropriate still to entertain them now. All right, then I'm going to go to Councillor Trombetta. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that. Yeah, I was just kind of confused because I had some questions on B as well. I didn't know that we were doing them all at once, so that's why I asked that.
No, we're
so
not.
if Councillor Riley wants to step to the podium first for the section B, I don't have a problem with that, and then I'll follow in with another question after.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam CAO, for your presentation. It's a lengthy one. It's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross through the whole municipality. I'd like to just make a couple comments. You know, working for a municipality, I've been working for a municipality for almost 15 years, and it's many departments, many people. You know, you're dealing with the union. There's many areas of it. So now that I'm on the councillor side, and you know, and like I said, I do work for a municipality. You know, I just want you to know that as a councillor, and because I'm in this position, I can make statements like this, that no employee should be fearful of saying something that if they want to go home, no employee should not be paid if they go home. I think there's a whole, and I'm just saying this because I see it, what's happening with me in St. Catharines, that there's a lot of people in the municipality. Everybody's afraid, you know, they want to go home. They're afraid to be near somebody. You know, that person's not giving six feet of distance. You know, and I don't speak for the whole of council, but I'll speak for myself, that if any employee decides to work home, I'm quite sure we can find something for them to do. No employee should feel that they can't work from home, and that includes even union employees. I'm quite sure the director or Brian or anybody or Donna or any employees that people have that are under the union that are able to work from home are able to work from home. And I think that as long as the staff knows that, you know, they are going to get paid, there's going to be no worry of not being paid. That's the key. And I think, and that's something I'd like to hear out of my municipality that we haven't gotten yet, because there's a lot of people saying, well, I'd like to work from home, but can I go work from home? And there's all that uncertainty. So I'd just like to speak from my standpoint as a councillor, that I don't have a problem you sending somebody home that feels comfortable working from home. I'm quite sure we can find something for them to do. And as long as they feel comfortable and just ensure them that they will be getting paid until this outbreak is completed. So I'd like to make those comments for the record, and thank you for the presentation, Madam CAO.
Good, thank you. Appreciate that. And that's part of our messaging that went out when the staff generated the business plan for continuity.
And just one more question. Like, I don't know how it's working there. Are the directors being in contact with their staff, like, say, union staff, non-union? I don't know who's union and non-union, if management. I think quite sure everybody's union. Is the directors been in contact with their staff signing? I heard you say there's 2-week rotations, which I like. I hope that's going through all departments, you know, to keep people healthy and back to work. Are all the directors engaged into their staff through you, Madam CAO, to dictate if they're able to stay home and find work for them to stay home during this outbreak if they're not feeling comfortable coming or being in the office, or coming or being in the yard, or being at the fire hall? I don't, or at parks. I don't know where everybody goes. So,
Madam CAO, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Bilsma, to Councillor Trombetta. We had a lot of discussion about different sorts of arrangements, because it really depends on the nature of the work, and so there are some cases where someone might just be coming into the office one day a week and then taking their work home. We're doing several sorts of arrangements, but with the goal of really sort of keeping half the staff in if possible and half the staff at home, and then turning it around if that makes sense. And I have asked staff to be in touch with their staff at home, because there's also you know, the sort of social isolation that can happen, and we are checking in with our staff to make sure that they're okay, and we've recommended to them that they call us. So the lines of communication are open, and our lines of communications have been tested as well to make sure that system is working.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor wishing to make comments on Madam CAO's report?
Okay, I'd like an opportunity to speak, please.
Go ahead, Councillor Ganan.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to say what a wonderful job I think staff has done on this report. It's very thorough. You can tell that everybody's been involved in the discussions. I very much like that there has been a way that senior management have worked with their own teams and tried to put together what will work in their department. So all of those things are really good. I just have one question about the public meeting that's scheduled for April 14th. It says staff will delay further public meetings, but it indicates that one is still on. So if Director of Planning is still on the line, I'd very much like to know what plans are in place for that, please.
Okay, so I'm going to pass the floor to, it is part of our discussion. I'm going to let the Director of Planning answer that question. Brian, are you on?
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. We have already sent out notice for a public meeting on April the 14th. It's to do with the telecommunication tower. So we're going to monitor whether or not that has to be canceled or what will happen. At this point, notice is out and we're collecting comments, but we're very alert to the fact that we may have to cancel and send out some sort of notice to advise of such.
Okay, and that's the only thing that's on right now, Brian?
Yes, it is. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. That hasn't been contentious in the past, so probably will be. Okay, so.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ganand. Any other councillors?
I wouldn't mind speaking one more time if no one else has had a chance to speak, then let them go first.
Okay, just pause then. Anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Riley, for a second time, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make this quick. I want to just echo a little bit of Councillor Trombetta's comments there. I think it's very important that our staff know and that we support them every which way, whatever decision they make. Like, these are, unprecedented times and stressful times, and I hope that none of them feel pressure to have to do something they don't want to do. I think with the recent release of the provincial government non-essential services that came for workplaces that came forward today, you can tell that there's a tremendous amount of people who seem to be disappointed that there's so many jobs that were on there that they had thought weren't going to be on there, and a lot of them feel like they don't have a say and feel concerned for their life. And so I want to make sure, I agree with Councillor Trombetta. Like, I think we got to make sure that our staff, not only do they have a safe and work environment, but they feel safe to go to work. And while I mentioned that, I do want to acknowledge that at 7:16, the standard just released that the first COVID patient that Niagara had, first case they had, just died in the hospital tonight. Yeah. And so again, like, this really hits close to home, and I think we have to be very mindful of what potential danger that staff could be accidentally put into. So I do appreciate everything that's going on here. I think it's excellent. I'm always for, can we do more? Can we do better? And so I hope staff really understands that they have our support every which way. Should they not feel safe or comfortable to come to work, then I hope that we can take care of them the best we can.
Okay, thank you. We have the seconder, right? Okay, so this report is before you. It's been moved by Councillor Jonker, seconded by
Councillor Cody.
Councillor Cody. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to pass the floor over to the clerk to take up a vote. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Bosma. Councillor Cody?
Yes.
Councillor Ganand?
Yes.
Councillor Jonker? Councillor Jonker?
Jonker, yes.
Jonker's yes.
Thank you. Councillor Rayner?
No.
Councillor Riley?
Yes.
Councillor Trombetta?
Support.
Mayor Boswell?
Support.
The vote is 6-1. Carried.
Thank you. Councillors, moving on, we have the Treasurer's report. Director DeFilippis has put together a resolution again. This one has been moved by Councillor Mike Rayner. Can I get a seconder to put it on the floor? It's waiving the interest and penalty charges and NSF fees March 17, 2020 to May 31, 2020. Did I hear Councillor Ganand?
Yes, I second it.
Okay, Councillor Ganand seconded. Councillor Riley, you started into this discussion already.
Yeah.
Please carry on.
All right. So I think the more specific question I was asking, and I know Director of Finance kind of answered the first part of it, or at least provided a little bit of clarity. I think I was hoping that we can be even a little bit clearer with how that information gets out to the community. But I think the question that I left on that we deferred to now, or waited to now for, was getting a better understanding. Like, are we completely, are are we being forced by the school boards and the region to do this delivery May 13th or whatever the date is, or do we have any extra? Like, are we aware of anything? Have we reached out to them and say, hey, listen, is there anything more that are you guys going to see anything in the works? And maybe this might be a good question to our regional council, would it be if he sit in any of the finance meetings at the region, if there would be anything that he could speak to this.
I'm going to go to the Madam CAO because there is some provisions in the legislation that talk about waiving all deadlines, and so
okay,
Madam CAO.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Bylsma, to Councillor Riley, and I know that Donna, our Director of Finance, will be talking on this next, but I'm on a regular call with the CAOs every day, and this issue has come up, especially with respect to movement from the region in terms of providing relief. There is some discussion underway, but there has been no action taken as of yet. And I don't believe that there has been any movement by the education group to change their dates in terms of those sorts of fees as well.
Okay. Director of Finance, Donna, can you weigh in here?
Yes, through you, Mayor Bylsma. So what we're recommending is quite consistent with all of the lower tier municipalities. We've all taken the approach to give relief to penalty and other late payment fees that may apply. In terms of our due dates that we pay, the school boards, that's legislated through the Education Act, and at this point there's been no discussion about the Education Act changing, and also as our CAO indicated, no indication that the region deadlines will change. Also, when you speak of deferral, I think you need to keep in mind how long do you defer for? Do you really want to present a taxpayer a large bill in December to say, okay, we're going to defer it, and then it's payable December. So I think this is a good approach. A lot of people who are going through uncertain times do have other means of protection. The federal government has come out with some relief programs. So this is a short-term measure, and again, it is something we can address again in May. We still have to deal with final tax bills. We still have to deal with tax policy. So I think this is just the first look at this, and we'll be revisiting it again.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. I guess, I guess I'll just leave it there. If anybody has any other questions, I might come back with one. I just would really like to see us do a little bit more.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Trombetta, did you have a question?
Well, yes, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to maybe Mrs. DeFilippis, I just noticed that other municipalities are waiving taxes. I'm going to get in a situation where we get residents asking, how come we didn't do the same? All we're doing is waiving fees.
No,
so
I'm going to let the director answer that because I think you misunderstand what may be happening in other municipalities. Go ahead.
Maybe I did. Like I said, I got the agenda late here, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So I'm going to let Councillor or the Director of Finance answer how we're in line with other municipalities. Go ahead, Donna.
Through you, Mayor Bylsma, the lower tier municipalities in Niagara, to my knowledge, due dates. We are all taking the approach of giving relief to penalty. You may have heard, I believe the city of Mississauga is...
Toronto, everybody else, right? So obviously when people see the news, that's the first thing they're going to see, right? So just to have answers for them why we're just waiving interest, that's all I was asking, Donna.
So as I mentioned, when you think of a deferral, that just means it's going to have to be paid eventually.
Correct.
So you really want to have someone have a huge bill in December. I think this approach is a better approach because those who can pay will pay, those who can pay part of it will pay, and they know that they will not be getting any additional penalty charges.
Okay. No, I get it. I just was trying to see what I didn't know what the other small tier municipalities were doing. So as long as we're in line with other neighboring municipalities, I'd like to see that. Because I don't want to be, I don't want to be, caught saying, the town of Lincoln or the town of Grimsby have waived it, and then all of a sudden we're still doing nothing, right? So.
I want everyone to understand that every department that reported earlier is in constant contact with their counterparts in the other municipalities. Since this is not an emergency that's necessarily ours alone to bear, but we're bearing this all together, they're using the best practices, and there's actually a lot of cross-pollination with our neighbors, and especially our like comparatives. We are actually quite fortunate that municipalities like Waynfleet, Pelham, Lincoln, and Grimsby, our next neighbors, are all very similar in structure, size, and organization as ourselves. And so we draw heavily from that collected wisdom, and it doesn't matter what department it is, whether it's IT or whether it's planning or public works, we're all pretty much singing from the same songbook, as they say. Any other questions to Director of Finance with respect to this item?
Yes, I have one.
If you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, please.
Okay, I'm going to acknowledge Cheryl Ganan, Councillor Ganan. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just wondering, Director of Finance, if we have any idea how many people are already on pre-authorized payments. Do we have a portion of our residents who tend to do that anyway, so that they allocate it monthly as opposed to a major big chunk periodically?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, Bill's to Councillor Ganan. So for taxes, we have two different pre-authorized payment plans. We have those who pay monthly and those that pay due date. I don't have those numbers in front of me exactly. I can share it later. The majority.
No, it's not. Go ahead.
The monthly program is quite popular because it allows people to budget for it on a monthly basis as opposed to some large payments 4 times a year.
Okay, that's what I was hopeful of hearing, actually, is that many people already are budgeting anyway, right? So.
Yeah, and so one of the recommendations is to waive the NSF charge that we charge. So if for some reason someone does not have the funds in their bank account, typically we charge a fee. That fee will be waived.
Okay, that's good news. Thank you very much.
Okay, someone else wishing to weigh in?
Yep. I have something I'd like to ask, please.
Go ahead, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you. When I first seen this, I thought the empathy was very well placed. I'm looking at it from the point of the seniors in this township, which is what I've spoken about a lot. They're on fixed income, but this really doesn't do anything for them. And because their checks are coming in all the time. And as I mentioned at budget time, it's very difficult for them because they have to take it out of their disposable income, any additional taxes, because they really don't get the same percentage on the CPP and the old age or whatever pensions they have with the company. So I just find it kind of a juxtaposition or kind of ironic. Come up with all these possibilities of delaying, deferring, not getting penalties, and yet last month, same finance department was trying to get a 10% budget increase. It just seems the complete flippant opposite. 1 month later, we were going for massive increases, which the council reduced last month, and this month we're trying to help them out so that they don't have to pay. It seems like a juxtaposition to me here, but it doesn't. Bottom line is, it doesn't do anything. I'm a senior. Nothing changes with me, and I'm sure nothing changes with everybody else. That's our income. That's what we get. So none of these things really do anything for us. But helping the other people, I understand. And it's good that we're doing it. Like the empathy that's applied to it. It just seems so ironic from just a month before.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
Talk about black and white. That's black and white.
We couldn't have predicted this. You're
I mean,
absolutely right.
one month we're going after massive tax increases. Next month we're trying to give everybody a break. I mean, everybody's going to think, what? Somebody nuts here?
Yeah.
Like that's I'm looking at this thinking, wow. talk about a reversal in 30 days.
Yep.
But anyways, that's my comments. It really doesn't do anything to the people on fixed incomes that are retired, but I'm glad it does help the other people because I'm sure, I know my son, for example, he's not going to work right now, and he has to wait, and I don't know how long before the province is going to pay or if they're going to pay her, all the hassle you got to go through to try to get it. So it's just became a nightmare for a lot of the younger people who are trying to put bread on the table and look after their family, and this is a nice thing for the township to do. And it's being done across the region, so the consideration is respectable throughout the region of Niagara.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Any other comments on this item?
I wouldn't mind speaking one more time once everyone else
Okay,
is done.
go ahead, Councillor Riley.
And this might be a crazy question to ask, but I'm going to ask anyways. I'm not afraid of asking crazy questions. But considering what's going on, I don't anticipate the park supervisor position actually going into the park and rec supervisor position actually going into play. Is there any way, even though it's been ratified, is there any way that we could put a delay on that so that doesn't impact the community this year and that saves them about what, $103,000? So that's got to be, I don't know, it's probably going to work out to less than $20 a year or so, but I was just wondering if there's anything within our ability or authority to defer that, even though we've already ratified the budget. So again, I don't really know. I just thought I'd ask.
I'm going to let the director, like a budget's a budget. It's a working document. It's a guiding principle. We make amendments to the budget all the time. So, there are monies allocated, but we have no clue. And I'm just going to speak kind of in generic terms. It is not a legally binding document in that sense, which allows us to make the amendments as we do through the course of the year, depending on the way things go. Having said that, we didn't foresee any of this, so there's going to be implications that are respecting the changes under COVID-19. All I'm going to say at this point, Councillor Riley, is that any changes, any costs that are incurred as a direct result of COVID-19 are being tracked by the Finance Department. And they're being categorized, and should compensation come down from the province or the federal government to municipalities, we have documentation to show us how much it has cost this municipality. That's, at this point, the best way that we can make changes to our budget and how we're tracking them. At a time. But the budget assumes a level playing field for the course of the year. It's very challenging that 1 month after the budget,
absolutely,
we're making changes. I would like to point out one little blessing. There are some municipalities that haven't even passed a budget yet, and they're still working through that process. So if you can imagine what's going on there, I think we're in a better position because at least we have a baseline.
Oh, absolutely. But again, I'm kind of hearing that there is a possibility to remove this, and considering that I don't think COVID's something that's going to disappear in a couple of weeks, I feel like we're going to be living with this for a little while. I don't foresee a situation where staff is going to have to go out and hire staff to actually go and do what was talked about doing, which is basically an extra layer of mobility with the Parks and Rec thing. So I would love to, if it's possible, I would love to see that removed from the budget, and at least if we can't defer tax, property tax, then at least we could possibly make the property tax cheaper. So if I need to, I have no problem bringing that amendment or motion forward to do so. I just thought I would inquire first.
I would second that. I thought of it earlier and I forgot to mention it, but it was a very, very valid comment. It's a Park and Rec position. There is no Park and Rec. Defer it. Like, save $100,000. Let's look at it again next year. It's not an important item in the total picture right now. In fact, it's zero because there's nothing going on.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna table that part of the discussion because what's on the table before us right now is not that component. We're not opening up the budget. It wasn't a crazy question. It's just not a question for tonight. So we're going to take a note on that, and we'll get some legal advice and some financial advice. But at this point, That's not on the table for the purposes of this special council meeting that we're holding by
Mr. Mayor, may I
teleconference.
make a comment, please? Yeah, why not, Rayner?
Can you hear my hesitation? Do you really
Almost
want to
there.
make a comment?
Yes, I'd just like to make a quick comment. If they're in the process of going out for interviews or looking for potential candidates, it is relevant right now because if it's going out tomorrow or next week,
Yeah.
you can nip it in the bud. Councillor Riley's timing is perfect.
I can
if
assure you,
something is happening in the next few weeks, you can stop it from happening. So it is really relevant if something is starting in the next little bit. It
Councillor
can be
Riley,
stopped.
Councillor Rayner, I can assure you that that process has not started, and it won't be starting until we get clarity on this anyway. So
Perfect. That's what I
it's not
needed
in
to
the
know.
middle. Yep, we're not in the middle of it.
So that's something we can bring back at the April 16th or whatever meeting that is?
Yep. So we will have a discussion at the staff level with the director and the CAO and other municipalities.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Any other comments on what's before us?
No.
Hearing none, I'm going to pass the floor over to the clerk for taking up the vote.
Thank you, Mayor Bosma. Okay, for the vote, Councillor Cody,
Yes.
Councillor Gannan,
Yes.
Councillor Jonker,
Support.
Councillor Rayner,
Support.
Councillor Riley,
Yes.
Councillor Trombetta,
His phone's broke.
Councillor Trombetta?
Oh, sorry. I muted there. Sorry. Support.
He was sleeping.
Yeah, no, his support, yeah.
Mayor Bosma,
I mute you every chance I get, Councilor Rayner.
Support?
the vote is 7-0 unanimous.
Okay,
Carried.
the vote is 7-0 unanimous. Thank you, everyone. At this point, we have item C. This is just a little bit of a housekeeping item. Go ahead. It's from the clerk's office. It's about acting mayor from April 1st, 2020 to November 30, 2020. Councillor Riley is moving it that the acting mayor rotation schedule for the 2018-22 council term be amended and that Councillor Cheryl Gannan be appointed in replacement of Councillor Mike Rayner for the time period between April 1st, 2020 to November 30, 2020. Can I get a seconder for that motion?
I second.
I'll second that.
I have Councillor
A lot of
Trevetta
reasons.
seconding.
Someone's echoing severely.
A lot of reverb.
IT's working on it. Was that the first part? Is your computer picking it up again? Okay, I think we're good now. Oh.
Nope.
Nope.
Echo.
Is that better now?
A little bit.
Okay, I'm going to get a wait. Just hang tight. I'm going to get a nod from IT. Can everybody mute?
Mute?
Okay. I think we've got it. All right, is that better, everyone?
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay.
Yes,
So-
that's better.
Okay, we solved it. It's just sometimes, anyways, whatever. Who knows? Any comments or questions on this resolution? Hearing none.
Did you get a seconder?
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Trombetta.
Sorry, just a clarification. Was Councillor Gannan not the acting mayor previously to this resolution, or she's just becoming acting mayor now?
Unmuted.
She is currently the acting mayor till the end of this month. And
So why?
then she's
why
going to be continuing.
Doesn't it usually go from name to name, Mr. Mayor?
It does. So Councillor Rayner has indicated that he is not willing at this time to be the acting mayor. And so.
So wouldn't it go to the one after Councillor Rayner?
It could, except that 6 of one, half done the other. We
No, then that's got to be. It doesn't have to be through council resolution. That's not 6 to 1 and half to the other.
This is the resolution to have Councillor Gannon do it.
Correct. But it usually goes from name to name. So if Councillor Rayner has forgone it, it goes to the next name.
So.
Right, but then we're just going to have a resolution for the last of final term because we'll fall one councillor short at the end.
So this is. I'm going to pass the floor to the clerk. It will technically go from name to name, except that one name will be on for twice as long. Go ahead, clerk.
Through you, Mayor Belsma, to Councillor Trombetta. We passed a resolution at the December 5th, 2018 council meeting, which provided a rotation of all councillors for, I think it was approximately an 8-month period. So that has been done. And in speaking to Councillor Rayner, he does not wish to act as the mayor for the period between April 1st to November 30th. So therefore, we have to choose someone, and it was just felt because Councillor Gannon has been acting during this period and can continue to do so, we thought it was just the better option. If we go to the next person, then basically at the end of the period, we would have an 8-month period where we would have to appoint someone anyway. So it is kind of now, or we do it later.
And I wouldn't, and the only reason why I know Councillor Gannon, nothing against Councillor Gannon, I think she probably did a fine job, not that I know all the events that she attended, but just, if Councillor Gannon is not going to be able to attend, I know, sorry, Councillor Gannon, I know you just mentioned something that, you have stayed in, and some people choose to stay in, but there's a necessity for someone to go out. Is that going to be delegated, or what happens with that? Like, because we're in a state of an emergency or pandemic, is what you want to call it?
So, first and foremost, I have every intention to fulfill my duties to the best of my abilities.
I know you never miss anything, Mr. Mayor. But I wouldn't. Like I said, I wouldn't even make these comments if it wasn't during a pandemic at the moment. I know you don't miss anything.
So, at this point, I'm healthy and able. So this is, of course, my backup, and I understand what you're saying. The motion is unmuted. If you are we okay? I think we're good again. Something keeps popping on. It's either that. Well, it's the motion before. So if you don't like it, vote it down, and then we'll come up with another acting mayor, which the next logical, I guess. So I guess the next logical person would be Councillor Jonker. Okay.
No, like I said, I was just asking.
Then I'm going to
just asking the question.
Yeah.
Like I said, sorry, Mr. Mayor. It's not that I don't think Councillor Gannon can do it. I'm quite sure she did a great job. It was just asking the question how it was determined that Councillor Gannon was next in line, even though she served the term, right? So that's the only reason why.
I understand.
I don't have a problem with Councillor
Gannon. It was strictly out of convenience.
Okay.
I do have a question, though.
Go ahead, Councillor Cody.
Yeah, so that this act of appointing the councillors as acting mayor, is this a procedural bylaw? Is it like I'm just wondering, so thus far we have Councillor Rayner who refuses to attend pre-agenda meetings for the committee he chairs, and now he's refusing to take his position as acting mayor. Like, at what point do we do something about a councillor who's refusing to fulfill his duties?
Can I answer that, Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Trombetta, go ahead.
I just think that, unfortunately, we are, as councillors, he's responsible to the public. He's not responsible to us. He's got to show his face to the public, how he conducts himself. We have no jurisdiction to rule or to control any other councillor's movement. That's not really up to us, Councillor Cody. He's responsible to the public, and that's all we really can say, right?
So we have nothing in place for someone who is elected and then refuses to fulfill their duties?
We have nothing, sir.
It's part of the Municipal Act. Part of the Municipal Act, Councillor Cody.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Cody, you raised a question. I don't know that we can answer specifically, except that what Councillor Trombetta has said. As elected officials, we're accountable to the public. That's our role. That's our accountability structure.
That's what I was trying to say, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question.
Go ahead, Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm assuming this is done, but don't think I've heard it quite yet. But Councillor Ganan, I didn't have a chance to speak to this yet, but she was consulted, right? Like, this is something that I'm under the impression that staff had reached out to her to confirm she was okay with this, or is this being dumped on her lap?
No, I did not see. I did not seek this appointment, but I was asked if I would stay on, and I agreed that I would do that. But if somebody else would prefer to do that, turn it down and vote somebody else in if you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was my question.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I think I've got a couple of councillors muted because I think that's where the feedback is coming. So I'm hoping that they're not feeling left out.
Unmuted.
Okay. Are there any other? Okay, we've identified a problem. We're gonna. All right.
Muted.
Okay.
I just say muscle through it. We're so close to the end.
Yeah. We're gonna muddle through. I'm gonna pass the floor over to the chair over to the clerk to take up the vote. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Bosma. Okay, for the vote, Councillor Cody?
They mute us out.
Councillor Cody?
I don't know.
Councillor Cody?
Are we going to be continuing doing meetings like this from now on?
No.
I'm thinking that this is probably going to be, unless things change after the 6th, they got to reassess that, right? So I imagine we'll have at least one or two more meetings like this.
It's working out.
I would 100% vote to do this for the rest of the term.
Unmuted.
For the rest of
Councillor Cody?
Councillor Cody?
in favor?
Yes.
A lot of echo there.
We know who the problem is.
Emphasize
It's Councillor Cody. Go ahead. Who's the next on the line?
Councillor Ganan? Councillor Ganan, your vote?
Sorry, yes?
Councillor Jonker?
Councillor Jonker.
Okay. Councillor Rayner? Councillor Rayner, your vote?
Shoot, we were doing so well.
Okay, I'll proceed. Councillor Riley?
Yes.
Councillor Trombetta?
Support.
Mayor Bosma?
Support.
Try again. Councillor
Just made it.
Jonker? Councillor Jonker, are you there? Councillor Rayner? Okay, I'll ask one more time. Councillor Jonker, your vote? Councillor Rayner, your vote? Okay, we'll just have to go without it, and the vote is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That is carried. Okay, so we're going to proceed. that concludes our evening's.
Muted.
Okay. That's concluded our evening's agenda. There's just a couple of final comments that I would like to do before I adjourn. First of all, thank you all for participating.
I think they muted us again.
All right.
I have a feeling wherever they have the speaker, the mic, and the sound is coming back to the speaker of the house.
Yeah, we're aware of it. Okay. Are we good? Okay.
Let's go this way.
My mic is off.
We can hear you again.
Okay, I'm going to put this on. Okay. First of all, thank you all for participating in this very unique meeting. The second thing I'd like to say is, Roberta, you did a fine job of running the meeting for the most part.
Thank you, Roberta.
Yeah, for this inaugural teleconference. Yeah. The next thing that I'd like to say, and we've had a lot of conversation about the senior management team, but I'd actually like to commend their second in commands. On every level, in every department, someone has risen to the occasion to compensate or help and assist the number one person of each department. I'd like to call out Tim, for example, Tim Hofsink, our Deputy Fire Chief. I'd like to call out Caitlin Hall, who has backed up Donna. Garrett has backed up Brian. And Elsa's backed up Joanne, and all the way down the line, we've had people come in and step in and risen to the occasion, and I think it should be noted. Our senior staff's going to get a lot of accolades. They're working very, very well, but they're doing that with the complete assistance of their second in commands because of the duplicity in our team. These people are rising to the occasion, and I really just think that the council should be aware of the fact that we have a fantastic staff. I know we commend the staff often, but it's in times like this that you really see how well they work together. And I'd like to commend Bev, who's heading this staff. Bev has done a fantastic job. She's been on for approximately, I think about 15 or 16 days solid. Doing the municipal work, maintaining connections to the other CAOs at the region and the other municipalities, keeping myself informed, making sure that we process the information in an effective way that comes from the province and the feds and how all the implications. So, Bev, from the bottom of my heart, carry on the good work, but don't burn yourself out. We're all in this together. But you're really pulling the team together. The team is responding very, very well. There's two little notes that I'd like to, or three little notes. The first is in tomorrow's edition of the local paper, there will be a centerfold ad that was put together in conjunction with the other mayors of the neighboring municipalities, Lincoln and Grimsby. I'd like to thank the comms people of Lincoln and Grimsby for putting that ad together, but it is some of the messaging that needs to go out with respect to physical distancing, social distancing, and self-isolation. We're going to just try to fix that for a second.
Come on, Mayor, make it quick.
Okay. The second part of our messaging, there's going to be a robocall that has been set up by the region to also assist and reach those people who may not be getting papers, who are not on Facebook, and who are not getting the message. So some of that messaging is coming down from the region. So if you pick up the phone and you hear a recorded message with yours truly, don't get creeped out. And I wanted to also let the all the councillors know that tomorrow I will also be attending by teleconference another mayor's meeting, and some of the subject matter is the ongoing discussions about declaring a state of emergency and what that does mean, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Having said that, I'd like to adjourn this meeting at the hour of 8:29. Thank you all, and keep in touch.
Okay, thanks to you folks for letting us do it this way.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. As well, a quick question. That I didn't see mayor remarks on this. Did I get the right copy?
No, those are